Hello, and welcome to another day of walking with Jesus as we continue in the final hours of Jesus' earthly ministry as he's headed to the cross. We have reached the day of unleavened bread, the day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the first day, the Passover day. And we're going to see the institution of the Lord's Supper, and that Judas is going to look for a means to betray Jesus, and things of that nature. It's a lengthy passage that we'll be looking at today as we look at Luke 22. Now the Feast of Unleavened Bread drew near, which is called the Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. So Jesus has finally made a nuisance of himself to the point that the religious authorities, the religious leaders are concerned. They're concerned about an insurrection. They're concerned about losing power, position, and esteem for themselves. They don't know how to deal with Jesus, and they recognize that the people really like Jesus and are hanging on every word that he says. So they're looking for a means to undo him. The Feast of Unleavened Bread was instituted by Moses in Exodus 13. I guess it was given to Moses by God in Exodus 13, where we have a whole week of eating unleavened bread. And this time of eating of unleavened bread was a remembrance, and it was a reminder. The nation of Israel was to do it every year. They didn't do a very good job of that, but that's what they were supposed to do. And it was a reminder to them, especially the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread was the Passover feast. The first day was the Passover meal, and it was to be a reminder of them of God's deliverance from slavery in Egypt and his establishment of them as a separate nation as he began to lead them out of Egypt and to the promised land. And so they're at that point in the year, and while it may not have always been observed faithfully by the Jewish people, Jesus is observing it, and so he's there in Jerusalem around that time. Verse 3, then Satan entered into Judas called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. And he, Judas, went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him, Jesus, to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money, so he consented and sought an opportunity to betray Jesus to them in the absence of a crowd. Then came the day of unleavened bread. So we don't know when Judas decided this. It was somewhere in Jesus' last week. We don't know why Judas did this, other than it says that Satan entered into Judas called Iscariot. We have to remember that we do have an adversary who prowls about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he will devour. Judas, for whatever reason, whether it was his greed, as some have said, or whether as a zealot he was trying to force Jesus' hand and he was tired of this cat and mouse game that Jesus was playing. He wanted to get him on the throne. He wanted to move things along. Who knows really what was in his mind? But what we do know is that in this circumstance, in this moment, in this time, Satan got the best of him, and he agreed to hand Jesus over. Then comes the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. So Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare the Passover for us, that we may eat it. They said to him, where will you have us prepare it? And Jesus said to them, behold, when you have entered the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house that he enters, and tell the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room, furnished. Prepare it there. And they went and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. The Passover is the perhaps single most important festival in the life of the Jewish people. Recounting, recording, remembering the deliverance from slavery in Egypt. Recounting and retelling how God delivered his people with a mighty hand. It was a powerful, powerful story of God's overcoming the gods of Egypt in order to deliver his people, the Israelites. And they would celebrate it with the sacrifice of a Passover lamb. Jesus chooses this meal, this season, this time, because he is the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. He is the one who will be sacrificed, and it is his blood upon the doorposts and the lintel of our heart that allows the angel of death to pass over us so that we can be delivered from sin into life and eternity. In this season, as we are coming into Jesus' final days and hours even, as we reflect on that, as we approach the Resurrection Sunday, we have to go through Good Friday, and we have to recognize the sacrifice that was made on our behalf. Jesus is our Passover lamb. He knew exactly what he was doing. So may you worship him today, and may the blood of his sacrifice cover the lintels and the doorposts of your heart and life, that you will be set free from slavery to sin and death. God bless you as you walk with Jesus today.